Chairperson, I am deeply grateful to you and to the committee for allowing me to make this presentation, which of necessity has to be cryptic and short. But I do hope to convey the issue particularly of a regime of incredible brutality in the prisons in Kazakhstan. Now, the European United Left Group in Parliament sent a delegation to Kazakhstan following requests from various groups of Kazakh citizens, ranging from workers trying to build independent trade unions to shantytown dwellers threatened with their homes being bulldozed, workers in the oil industry being victimised, and then representatives campaigning against a regime of brutality in the prisons. The delegation was composed of myself and an MEP for Dublin, Ireland, and a political advisor to the GUI group, Tanya Niemeyer. Now, we met very many groups who have experienced routine and systematic obstruction and or outright repression of their human, civil and political rights and the right to critical media. And they relate a pattern of persecution of any citizen who peacefully asserts their rights to assemble or protest. But it was the testimony we received about the situation in many of Kazakhstan's prisons that most shocked us. I have to report that sinister methods were deployed by the Kazakh police to prevent evidence of prison brutality getting to us. On Monday, August the 30th, we had a meeting arranged in Karaganda with human rights campaigner Vadim Kuramshin. Vadim had been in prison himself and witnessed severe maltreatment and then campaigned for prisoners' rights on his release. 2 days before our meeting, Vadim Kuramshin was arrested by the police, framed on a spurious charge, and sentenced to 10 days in jail with immediate effect. This was to prevent him meeting us and was a calculated strategy by the Kazakh police. There is no question of that. Fortunately, other former prisoners and relatives of current prisoners did manage to meet us, and they described a regime of shocking brutality in some of Kazakhstan's prisons. These witnesses were threatened continuously before our meeting by unknown people on their telephones not to meet our delegation. They put themselves at risk by doing so, and I believe they are totally credible. Briefly, Alexander Krivoruchko, aged 23, described arriving at the Granitny prison in northern Kazakhstan in the autumn of last year, 2009. Guards immediately began to beat the newly arrived prisoners. Grotesque degradation of prisoners was graphically described, such as being ordered to clean up the floor after prison guards had urinated on it or to lick spittle off the prison floor. Refusal meant systematic savage beatings that went on for days or even weeks. Alexander recounted with great distress, as he so did, a young prisoner who was admitted with him being raped by a prison guard as part of the process of humiliation and degradation. Prisoners were hung from ceilings and left there for hours, receiving systematic, brutal beatings. Another former prisoner, Azamat Dautov, also aged 23, was sentenced to 3 years for allegedly stealing a mobile phone and gave a vivid account of being beaten also when he arrived at Granitny. On one occasion, guards urinated and spat on the prison floor and then, using him as a mop, dragged him around to clean up the mess. On one occasion, he described being hung up by his hands over a period of 3 days, with his legs being severely beaten for refusing to sign a paper saying he agreed with the prison regime. On the third day, only when threatened with being raped did he sign, but described to us that he had to do so by putting the pen in his mouth because his hands were utterly paralysed from the hanging. Both prisoners described a weapon used in the beatings. It is a metre or so long, a flat length of rubber used, they said, because it leaves less heavy marks on the body. Prisoners called it the camera because when hit with it, their eyes flashed with the excruciating intensity of the pain. The extreme brutality in Kazakhstan's prisons resulted in a dramatic and gruesome protest on August the 10th, when dozens of prisoners in many prisons mutilated themselves horribly, indicating no doubt their utter desperation at the treatment that they were enduring. The delegation was given a short video taken on a mobile phone from inside one of the prisons showing this protest. We will make it available. Chairperson, I have already spoke verbally in person with the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Torture, who will visit some of Kazakhstan's prisons very shortly, and we are arranging to hand him over the detailed evidence to assist his visit, finding the truth which the authorities try to cover up, and hopefully ending this torture. Finally, with regard to the Organisation for Security and Cooperation in Europe, we were shocked and shaken by the evidence that was presented to us. I think it is outrageous that the prestige of the chairship of the OSCE should be granted to Kazakhstan in view of the systematic denial of human and civil rights. Members of the OSCE, many claim to be paragons of democracy, and one of its remits is to monitor civil and human rights. I do believe, I have to say, that it is related to the fact that Kazakhstan has a crucial geopolitical strategic importance, especially with regard to the supply lines for the Afghanistan war. And also, of course, there are huge exports of oil, gas and other minerals, and Kazakhstan is the EU's biggest trading partner, in fact, made up of energy products. So finally, at the beginning of December, Kazakhstan will host a very special OSCE summit, which it lobbied hard for, with the heads of states of all the 56 countries invited. I believe that that summit should be cancelled in view of the evidence that we have and that other human rights defenders have. But in any case, I do appeal to all the members of Parliament and their staff colleagues who are here and who are concerned about human rights in repressive states and in Kazakhstan to please contact your EU member state governments, foreign ministers in particular, demand that they intervene with the Kazakhstan authorities, and if they do not call for the cancelling of the summit, at least that they intervene with the authorities to stop the horror and the nightmare that was described so graphically to us. Thank you, Chair.